Whether Uber, a yellow cab, or some other regionalized company, taxis play an integral role in the lives of many people. We're pretty sure compared to what most people use, the following taxi service make the rest look pretty vanilla. From unsafe to outlandish, we'll make that Crown Vic you were just riding in seem pretty tame compared to, say, an overloaded motorcycle taxi carrying several people at once. But before we begin, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks. BODA-BODAS. Imagine hailing a cab and a late 80s motorcycle pulls up, ready to accept the fare. This is what happens in many parts of Kenya. Called BODA-BODAS, the whole thing can seem a bit crazy to Westerners. After all, you can call a cab and then are expected to sit on the back of a motorcycle while it weaves through traffic? Where's your comfortable car seat? The reality is, BODA-BODAS are probably the most convenient way to get around traffic jam-prone cities like Nairobi. You can still get a car, but then expect to spend hours sitting in gridlock as the motorcycle taxis go flying by. Robotic cows. No, these aren't actually robotic cows that you can ride, but how awesome would that be? In any event, some areas of the world are so hard up for transportation that they make their own. In Cambodia, one popular form of taxi is pretty much homemade. What do we mean? Well, the taxi you might find yourself using to tour certain parts of the country could be a real Frankenstein vehicle. In the case of the robotic cows, you take a cart and slap some sort of agricultural engine onto the front. It's not safe in any way, but it does work. Coco taxi. If the Minions and the Flintstones got together to design a taxi, we imagine it would look something like this. Cuba's Coco taxis are small, funny looking, and don't really fit in with other cars on the streets of Havana. Essentially a scooter, the Coco is completed by the addition of a cab, which wouldn't look out of place on a ride at Disney World. It's colorful, quirky, and a tourist draw. However, if we're being honest, they are pretty tiny, and it must surely feel like your last moments on Earth as you weave through traffic with much larger cars and buses all around you. Thai LAMBO. Many motorcycles and scooter taxis are below you. Are you looking for something that is sporty, expensive, and totally impractical? Then head on over to Thailand and hail a Hisco Life cab. They have a range of exotic cars in their fleet, with the most popular being this Lamborghini. More than one passenger or piece of luggage, this ride isn't for you. However, if you have cash to burn and need to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible, then this crazy taxi is definitely up your alley. Houston Hummer. Hey, if it's good enough to taxi soldiers on the battlefield, then it's definitely good enough to taxi civilians around the city, right? If you're in Houston and feeling the need to hail a cab that can roll over other vehicles, then try the yellow cab company's Humvee. Motorcycles, pedestrians, and compact cars don't stand a chance against you as you roll to your destination in military-grade style. Yeah, it's overkill, and we're sure you'll see that reflected in your fare. St. Petersburg APCS. In Russia, they do things a bit differently. You'll see your Humvee and raise your fleet of functional ex-military APCs, complete with turret and machine guns. The BRDM-2s have been painted pink so as to not only stand out, but convince locals they are not being invaded. Legally, they can't use their guns to clear away those pesky traffic jams, but they do have one crazy and useful characteristic. You see, the BRDM is fully amphibious, meaning they can just swim across the river if traffic at the bridge gets too jammed up. Indonesian overload. Despite the fact many of us are used to seeing cars that we hail a taxi, much of the rest of the world relies heavily on scooters and motorcycles. Now, you might think motorcycles are dangerous to begin with, but what about a motorcycle that has extra seats strapped to each side and can carry several additional people? Oh yes, they do exist. Aside from the total lack of any safety features, we can't imagine anything more terrifying than sitting on a couple of 2x4s attached to the side of a bike while traffic flies by just inches away. Gotham Air. This taxi service is more crazy cool than crazy insane. When you think of the type of person who travels to places in a helicopter, the super rich come to mind. After all, what's more high-end than arriving at your destination by helicopter? It turns out that in a place like New York, a helicopter taxi service can actually work. Take Gotham Air, for example. For not much more than the cost of a conventional cab, you can get from Manhattan to JFK or Newark Liberty in mere minutes instead of hours. Sounds good to us. The Ring Taxi. For race enthusiasts, the Nürburgring racetrack in Germany is the holy land. However, if you doubt your own capabilities and are mindful of the long and infamous list of drivers killed on this raceway, then simply get a cab. Yes, that's right. If you're looking to get around the green hell, You can pay to have a taxi service do it for you. This isn't your standard ride, however. Hailing a cab will get you a 560 HP BMW M5 complete with professional driver for $250. It's not cheap, but then again, when was crazy cheap? Northern Taxi. Visiting northern Norway? Forget the standard cars and stretch limousines. Visitors who travel to Kirkenes can take a rather unique taxi from the airport to their hotel. There's no horsepower here, just the power of 8 Alaskan Huskies, which make up this dog sled taxi service. It's a service that isn't the fastest, clocking in at 45 minutes from start to finish. Oh, and it isn't the cheapest either. The dog sled taxi will run you about $370. We guess dog food isn't cheap in these here parts. Alright folks, that's it for this video. What did you think of these crazy taxi services? Let us know down below in the comments. And while you're here, like this video, check out the other content we have available for you over at The Richest, and of course, subscribe. Thanks, and bye-bye.